Hello and welcome back to Boat Fools. So as promised at the end of the last video, today is the big boat reveal and boat tour of the Morgan 382 that we purchased. I apologize that it's winter. I apologize that she's under a cover and torn apart for winter, but I think if you use your imagination, you'll get a good sense, and we can overlay some pictures of what she does look like when she's not torn apart. I apologize for any wind noise. It's a little breezy today, but we're looking forward to showing you around, and we look forward to your feedback. And based on the sailboat data that we did go over in the last video, we absolutely and unequivocally felt this was the best boat for our purposes. So let's go take a look. Now, you're going to see a bunch of white stuff around. That's because it's Maine and it's winter, and our boat, sadly, is not in the water. It's on the hard here under a Fairclough cover that we did get for it. And to be honest, I don't know how to pronounce that, but those people were terrific to work with, and they came up and measured this boat and custom fit this cover for it, which was not too bad to put on with a couple of people, and actually has been working really great. So anyway, this is a 1980 Morgan 382. Ted Brewer design, built in Florida by Morgan. There are a couple iterations of this. There was a 383 and a 384, which comprised of two differences, actually three. Mainly the traveler moved from the cockpit to the coach roof in the 383 and the 384. The rig got taller, the boom shorter, and the rudder got a little bit bigger. But in any event, a very successful design and boat. She's 17,000 pounds displacement. She's got a 5-foot draft, which means she's great for tucking into some shallower places. It's sort of a longer keel, not a deep fin keel, but it is a fin keel with a skeg hung rudder, which I'll show you in a second. So for us, what was neat about the skeg hung rudder is that the prop is protected here. Now, if you're watching us from Maine, or have ever sailed in Maine, you recognize the fact that our waters are just chock-a-block full of lobster pots and other buoys. So this actually affords us some protection from fouling on a prop. Though it's not impossible, it does make it more difficult to get fouled up. And the rudder is pretty well protected from this skeg. And we liked that, so this was attractive to us for our purposes. So then we also have on the 382, before we go upstairs, we do have a aft transom ladder with a split gate, which makes it easy to get through to the other side. And I'm shuffling along here because this snow has frozen and it's really slippery. Anyway, moderate bilges on this boat, so she is very sea kindly. She is 38 feet length overall, with just north of 30 feet on the water line. So she does have some overhangs, but does not hobby horse because of that heavy displacement. She's very, very kind in the water and smooth. And we've been out in everything from 0 knots to nearly 30. And we have only buried the rail once, and that was with our jib reefed about halfway down. It's a 135. We had it reefed about halfway in, and no main, and it was blowing near 30, and we're doing 7.5 knots, just chugging along, and we finally buried the rail, but it took a lot. So some of the other things we liked about this boat, and you can't see them now, and we'll go up under the cover here and show you around the boat a little bit. And keep in mind that she's been taken apart for the winter, so it's not going to look as spiffy as she does in the summer. But some of the things we liked were that she has the original gel coat, which is white, and the bottom had been taken down to fiberglass, and a new barrier coat and new paint had been put on. So she's really sort of intact and original from 1980, which is kind of neat. So another neat thing, which is a pro and con with this boat actually, is that the Blackwater holding tank is in the keel. You can see this little drain plug here. That's access to that. But also, you can see how the keel is blocked. You can't put blocking past sort of halfway, because that's all hollow fiberglass in the aft part. Solid internal lead in the forward part of the keel. So it's not a bolt-on. She is encapsulated, which for our purposes is great. Maybe not the fastest, but certainly not going to shear off, or we don't have to worry about keel bolts. So that is the exterior, and we'll move on up and show you the interior. Okay, we are up on deck. We are standing right behind the helm station in the binnacle, looking forward to the pulpit. This boat has tons of room in the cockpit here with very high coamings, as you can see, over halfway up your back when you're sitting down. Also has a nice little aft deck and lazarette. That's a gas lazarette, but also a nice platform getting on and off the boat, off that stern ladder. Again, these seats in the cockpit are fantastically deep. That's a bucket there, a full-size bucket for washing the decks. Get a sense of the depth of this cockpit. You are safe and secure in here. The instruments have been removed for winter, so you're not going to see any of that stuff. Also, all the lifelines have been removed because they were coated, and we are going with stainless steel to comply with new regulations in case we do any offshore racing, and just for safety, because coating hides a lot of rust. But you get the sense of the width of this deck. She's a 12-foot beam and high bulwarks along the side here, about 4 to 6 inches. I'll get you a closer look at those when I get up on the bow. She's got a old school windlass up here, which is not electric, but it's manual, and it actually works quite well. The anchor's on deck for the winter, as you can see, but these bulwarks along the tow rail, under the tow cap, rail cap, offers a ton of support in any kind of sea, and you need to walk forward, and really helps channel water down and away when you are sailing. And we have found it to be a very steady boat at sea. And here we are looking aft toward the cockpit under this Faircloth cover, and you can see that the benefit of these covers with no mast on deck or stepped is that there's tons of room to move around. I am 6'1", and I can walk down the center of this without hitting my head, even when I'm standing up on the coach roof here. So 2 hatches, no dorades, a couple of air vents, one for the head, which is solar, to keep air moving in and out of that. So let's move back and we'll take you down below. But just the thing that we loved about this boat in particular is, as you'll see, the jib sheets are run outside of the stanchions. Okay, so while she is not going to point like a racing boat, she does point well. But the benefit of having those fair leads outside of the stanchions and lifelines is it clears up the cabin deck for walking. And so these, as you can see, are very wide, no toe stubbers. The halyards and shrouds, the shrouds are led in next to the coach roof here. You can see the 3 of them right here. And so there is plenty of room to maneuver between those and the lifelines without having to do that awkward dance around them. So really wide decks, easy to move, no toe stubbers. It is really an easy boat to get around on, even underway. When she's heeled over, there's just a lot to hold on to and not a lot to crash into. Okay, so this boat's been torn apart for winter, but you're going to get a good sense of what she's like down below. And it's an 80s classic plastic, lots of dark wood, which we actually like because when it's those hot days, it's nice to come down to a dark, cool spot. So you'll get a sense of the size of this boat and the utility of the space. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you that, and we'll continue our tour. This will give you a general sense of the interior and how it's sort of a classic 80s design with the into the salon here with the seating on the right. All the cushions are off the boat right now. Seating on the left. These each have water tanks underneath, and the one on the port side actually goes out into a double bed. Each tank holds approximately 50 gallons of water. Then you also have up here a little pilot berth, which is fantastic for smaller people and when you're in a sea because it has a built-in lee cloth. And then you've got the classic quarter berth here with plenty of room, and nav station, which is a disaster right now, but it gives you a sense, a nice area to sit, a good workspace, and you know, it's a typical what you'd find in most 80s boats. This boat is driven by a 50 horsepower Perkins 4108, which I'll show you in a minute. You've got your ice box with no refrigeration. It's all pinked out for winter. You've got a 2-burner propane stove, which is sufficient. You've got great storage under here for all your pots and pans and various cabinets here and there. And then here you can look right into our bilge. You can see she's dry. There's a little, we've pinked it out, so there's a little moisture down there, but by and large, that is your bilge. And she carries 40 gallons of diesel. This boat came with a TV, which we've used for some movies on occasion. And underneath here, the previous owner did a redundant Raycor fuel filter setup, which is fantastic. So if one gets a little gummed up, you can switch over to the other and keep going while you clean out the first one. Very handy. Haven't had to do any switching out yet, so that's good. Under here, we've got a macerator for the holding tank, which in this boat is in the aft section of the keel. And that's a very handy thing. So when you're 3 miles offshore, you can discharge overboard. Neat little dinette table here with storage for the important things, rum, gin, and whiskey. And here's our mast step. She's a keel step mast. We need to modify this to be able to lock in the mast in case the boat ever went turtle, which we hope never to do, but you need to make sure that you comply with any offshore racing rules. And it looks like we might have a mouse visitor, which we need to take care of quickly. Okay, what else can I show you in here? Moving up, we go into the V-berth, which we have put back to its original configuration, which is 1/1. You've got one up, one down with the feet tucked in underneath. And then you've got a chain locker that's not used for chain locker up there. The chain locker itself is smaller and on deck and works pretty well. We got lights up here, and and then you've got your hatch, so it's nice and spacious. You've got some good room, and you can easily get 2 people up there and your typical cabinet storage here. And then in here, this is the head, which is not a 2-entry head. However, you do have, sorry, the floor mats are up, but you do have a standing shower. That's the curtain just drying out, which a 6-foot person can stand in comfortably. You've got a molded in sink and access to more storage back there in one of your chain plates. And that's about it for in here. This is the Perkins 50 horsepower 4108. It's been painted red versus the traditional blue, which you can still see some of. But in any event, this is in various stages of being winterized. So the water strainer has been removed and emptied, and we have more to do there. But, you know, you service your engine, it's going to last a long time. These diesels are pretty bulletproof. The word is if your Perkins diesel is not leaking oil, then there's something wrong with it and you should be concerned. So it does leak a little bit, but nothing to be alarmed. We just check the oil every time we go out, which of course is highly recommended. Here we've got our battery banks. We got 3 inline batteries, and then we have a separate engine start battery up in the lazarette. But there you have it. That is basically the indoor scene, down below scene of the Morgan 382. She can sleep 7 if you had to. And otherwise, she's a very, very comfortable boat. The only complaint would be maybe a little more ventilation, but luckily we've got all these ports that open plus the 2 hatches, so we haven't had any issues yet. And but we haven't really been in a situation like down in the islands where you really would want a little more air movement, but there are workarounds for that, and you can add durades. A double sink center line, which as you all know is key for being underway and keeping things in the sink and not on the floor in terms of water movement. And there you have it. That is your Morgan 382.
You are nuts. And that's a conclusion based on fact.